So recently Honkai Star Rail came out. It's a game that's made by the creators of Genshin Impact, that being Hoyoverse. And as someone with a vast amount of experience playing turn-based games, most notably the Shin Megami Tensei and Persona games, I feel as though if anyone has a good opinion on this, it would be me. I came into this game expecting it to be really bad, but it genuinely surprised me. It's actually pretty decent. First of all, let's talk about the combat. There's not that much depth to the combat, it's just your classic turn-based combat. However, the lack of depth is made up for with a speed up button, which makes the gameplay feel very fast paced and actually somewhat enjoyable. However, that's just about the only thing that the combat has going for it. Seeing as this game is a gacha game, there's an extreme lack of variety and customization, and this often makes the game feel very stale and boring. You're going to spend most of the time in the game spamming the same few abilities, and that's entirely because it's behind a paywall. I personally don't mind gacha too much, but I don't like it when it's purposefully hindering the game itself. I would have much preferred if this was just a full game that I could buy without anything like gacha wise hindering it. It's also really bad when the bosses are really spongy and it's extremely fucking boring and really tedious. Like, you'd probably have a better chance using a toothpick on the brick wall. That's how absolutely fucking spongy these guys are. They're more spongier than bosses in SMT5. Normally for the bosses, I just turn on auto battle, and it's quite nice having the choice there to be able to auto battle or not. It makes the game feel a lot more casual compared to Genshin, and it's something that I could play from time to time casually. The main appeal of the actual combat is the roguelike elements, most importantly the simulated universe or the abyss. However, I'm not that big a fan of it. The dungeons themselves are pretty boring. I'm not that big a fan of the combat. It can often feel just a bit tedious doing the same thing over and over again. However, it does mean that there is a lot of content in the game, which was a big problem with Genshin, so I can appreciate what they were trying to do there. In terms of the story is surprisingly decent, but it's not really anything to keep my attention too much. Pacing of it is a bit slow, however the dialogue is significantly better than Genshin, and it's not bloated with random pointless exposition dumps for no reason, and you don't spend the entire time talking to 3 random NPCs about pointless conversations. In this game, you're actually talking to the characters that you care about, and it's about things which actually matter to the story. The character writing in this game is also pretty decent. The characters have much more personality compared to Genshin, because in Genshin the characters are the equivalent of talking to a brick wall. Shit is fucking boring and dull, and you've seen it 1,000 times. Each character actually has their own motivations and individuality, which make for some pretty interesting conflicts for themselves. A good example is Bronya, and her having to accept the fact that her mother is actually kinda a dick. I really like those moments, and it adds a lot of depth to their character. Whilst the contents of the story aren't as good as Genshin, for example, and I'm going to bring up Genshin a lot, seeing as it is their most popular game that they've made, the actual telling of the story and the storytelling is significantly better compared to Genshin. Another neat thing about it is that in some certain story moments, the players will have to choose which route to go, and it's mostly inside stuff like character quests, but it's pretty cool to have the player's actions affect the outcome somewhat. That's a big thing that I like in turn-based RPGs and story-based games. Overall, I do think the game is pretty solid, but it's nothing really too groundbreaking, but it's a bit of fun for time to time whilst you wait for a new game, and it does have a little bit of charm to it that you can't get in many other games. I think the game is pretty fun, a solid like 6 out of 10. I'll probably continue playing the game, but I'm just kind of hoping that I don't hit a brick wall where there's no content to do. Even though that will probably happen, it is Hoyoverse we're talking about, we're gonna run out of content real fast. Oh, and by the way, if you're seriously saying, I don't like turn-based games, but I like Honkai Star Rail, then Jesus fucking Christ, play an actual good turn-based game.